Everyone. I'm Kristen Sakota, Director of the Los Angeles County Department of Arts and Culture. I want to welcome you all to this LA County Arts and Culture Forum on Wildfire Response and Resources. The arts and creative community of Los Angeles has been hit hard by this disaster. And on behalf of our entire team, I want to extend our deepest support and solidarity to everyone affected by the wildfires. We also know arts and culture in times of crisis can play a vital role in healing, recovery, and the rebuilding of our communities. And with all of this in mind, we are committed to supporting response and recovery efforts to LA's creative sector and all of our communities. We have a packed agenda today and a great lineup of agencies and speakers with resources and programs to share with you. But before we begin, I want to make sure I acknowledge all of our first responders, as well as the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors for their leadership. I'm pleased to introduce a special message from the chair of the LA County Board of Supervisors, Catherine Barger. Supervisorial District 5 under Catherine Barger represents and includes the Altadena area. So Alexis, if you could cue up that video message, please.
Hi, I'm Supervisor Catherine Barger, Chair of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. It's an honor to welcome you to today's forum, tailor-made for our arts and culture workforce. Our creative sector has been deeply affected by the Eaton and Palisades fires. The arts are the foundation of our creative economy. They're vital to children's education, to our mental health and well-being, to our community's vibrancy, to our civic spaces, and to our social infrastructure. As we begin to rebuild from our profound devastation, it's important that we invest in our creative ecosystem. That includes artists, creative workers, crews, businesses, and nonprofit organizations who are all an invaluable part of the heart of our communities. Arts and culture are deeply woven into the fabric of Los Angeles County. They reflect our unique cultural heritage, identity, and our diversity, especially in Altadena, which includes a rich and storied history of African-American community and a diverse array of artists, art workers, and nonprofits. As our community recovers, we must honor the cultures and people who made our neighborhoods so special. We will rebuild, and we will uplift and stay true to the strong, vibrant community that has always been there. Los Angeles County is here as a source of support every step of the way. We will equip folks in the arts sector with every resource they need to recover. I want to thank our Department of Arts and Culture for their leadership, their support of our creative community, and their coordination with partners including the county's Department of Economic Opportunity, public agencies at the local, state, and federal level, philanthropy, and many others here today. Together, we will make sure our creative and cultural workers rebuild and thrive.
Thank you to Chair Barger. Just briefly, before we begin, we know we've got a mix of folks joining us, which is wonderful. And so many of you might know the Department of Arts and Culture well. Some of you may not. So just briefly, the Department of Arts and Culture serves as LA County's local arts agency. And that means that we provide leadership, services, and support for the entire Los Angeles County region, including our programs in grants and technical assistance for nonprofit organizations, arts education initiatives countywide with school districts as well as in communities, artist commissions and care for the LA County Civic Art Collection, research and evaluation data and reports on the field, paid arts internships and creative career pathways, professional development for artists, creative workers, and organizations, and cross-sector art strategies to address complex civic issues. All of this with our longstanding commitment to fostering access to the arts for all communities, within the frame of LA County's cultural policy and the Cultural Equity and Inclusion Initiative. We'll be highlighting more of our work at the end of today's session. I want to really foreground more of those relief grant and other opportunities. But suffice to say, we are coordinating with many agencies, and you'll hear some of them today. We also have a dedicated resource page on our website for you to check out, and we'll share that today with resources for the Wildfire Emergency Response and Recovery. We have been able to leverage our creative well-being arts education work to support young people, educators, and schools impacted by the wildfires. With our research and evaluation capacity, we're partnering with others to assess the impact and data, and we'll share with you at the end a survey that we invite you to participate in. And through our Civic Art Division, we're sharing resources with artists and community members who may have treasures that were damaged in the fires or artworks who need information and guidance on how to conserve them. So like many of us here, it's all hands on deck. And for now, I'm going to transition us to our Chief Deputy, Heather Rigby, who will share the agenda and ensure that we highlight our land acknowledgement as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Good morning, everyone. I'm Heather Rigby, the Chief Deputy for the Department of Arts and Culture, and I'm happy to deliver the Los Angeles County Land Acknowledgement. The County of Los Angeles recognizes that we occupy land originally and still inhabited and cared for by the Tongva, Tataviam, Serrano, Quiche, and Chumash peoples. We honor and pay respect to their elders and descendants past, present, and emerging as they continue their stewardship of these lands and waters. We acknowledge that settler colonization resulted in land seizure, disease, subjugation, slavery, relocation, broken promises, genocide, and multi-generational trauma. This acknowledgement demonstrates our responsibility and commitment to truth, healing, and reconciliation, and to elevating the stories, culture, and community of the original inhabitants of Los Angeles County. We are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these ancestral lands. We are dedicated to growing and sustaining relationships with Native peoples and local tribal governments, including, in no particular order, the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians, Gabrielino Tongva Indians of California Tribal Council, Gabrielino Tongva San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians, Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians Quiche Nation, San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, San Fernando Band of Mission Indians. To learn more about the First Peoples of Los Angeles County, please visit the Los Angeles City County Native American Indian Commission website at lanaic.lacounty.gov. We'll move now to the agenda. So as you'll see here, we have a very packed agenda for this meeting today. And I wanted to emphasize our goal is really to share what resources are available to support recovery from the wildfires, what those resources are for, and how to connect to them. So as presenters share information, our team will be posting relevant links in the chat to those resources so you can follow along and have those easily accessible. Let's move then to the next slide to finish up with housekeeping. If you have questions, you may post those in the Q&A section of the Zoom. We have hundreds of folks attending today, so we've turned the chat feature off so that the links to the resources provided are easily seen and accessible to all of you. This forum will be recorded, and after the event, the full recording and slides and links and all the information will be posted to our recovery resources page, which you can access via the QR code to the right. If you have questions after the event, please do email them to communications@arts.lacounty.gov. This takes us to the end of housekeeping, so I'll turn it back to Kristen to move us forward with the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. I want to acknowledge, in addition to the entire LA County Board of Supervisors and their arts deputies and staff, our longstanding arts commissioners, including this year's president of the Arts Commission, Leticia Buckley, I want to thank philanthropy partners, all our colleagues and friends, and you're going to hear from a bunch of folks. I also want to give a special thanks to the outgoing chair of the National Endowment for the Arts, Dr. Maria Rosario Jackson, as well as the Director of State, Regional, and Local Partnerships, Michael Orlov, for their support in this effort, and want to acknowledge additional colleagues such as Rick Noguchi, President and CEO of California Humanities, and many more. Now it is a pleasure to invite a few brief remarks from 4 frequent partners, also really dedicated to the Los Angeles arts community. So we're going to hear from Danielle Rizal, Executive Director of the California Arts Council, Daniel Tarica, General Manager of the City of Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs, Rochelle Branch, the Cultural Affairs Division Manager for the City of Pasadena, and Sophia Klatzker, Cultural Affairs Manager, City of Santa Monica. Welcome, and we'll start with you, Danielle.
Thank you so much, Kristen, and thank you for your extraordinary leadership, along with our colleagues on this call today. We absolutely stand in solidarity with Los Angeles. And in my new role as the Executive Director of the California Arts Council, which is your state arts agency, we are absolutely committed to coordinating and collaborating closely with our county, city, municipal partners to ensure that we're threading the resources from the federal to the state to the local. We're threading information, and we're threading collective and collaborative data collection so we can truly be able to map out the many, many dimensions of this catastrophe, which is a civic trauma. And it's a trauma on the people of the land, of our communities. And even though I'm in Sacramento, Los Angeles, I am forever an Angelino, and my heart is with you all. So just know that we are here, we are standing here in solidarity and working collaboratively. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you. Daniel Tarica.
Thanks so much, Kristen, and thank you, Danielle, as well. Thanks so much to the LA County Department of Arts and Culture for bringing everyone together today to really help amplify the disaster response and recovery resources available. As the City of Los Angeles continues to support our city and our region's recovery, we continue and are uplifting our opportunities of making our community arts centers and performing arts spaces available for healing and engaging and including programming focused on healing through expression and after-school programs. While the time has truly been so devastating for so many and has hit our arts and cultural sector so incredibly hard, it has been encouraging to see the support from our fellow Angelinos and from across the region and the state, and honestly from across the world to really come and help and be in support. We're looking forward to the presentations from today's speakers, and we want to remind everyone that additional support can also be found at the city's Disaster Recovery Center, at the UCLA Research Park, and also in the county and in Pasadena, which serves as a one-stop shop with representatives from numerous agencies at all levels of government. Up till now, the Recovery Center has helped more than 5,000 people and provided thousands of dollars in assistance to those negatively impacted. So as a city, we continue to focus on returning our residents to recovery and to their homes when possible. We at the city are here to support for the short, medium, and long-term responses, both in response and recovery, knowing that this is going to be a very long recovery for our region. And we're committed to making sure that the work that we do as a region is part of the recovery. So we're very proud to partner with the county, with the cities of Santa Monica and Pasadena, and working together on the rapid assessment survey that you'll hear a little bit more about later on our broader recovery efforts. Thanks again so much to all of you. I'm looking forward to hearing the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. Rochelle.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. I'll be very brief. Obviously, everything that Kristen and Danielle and Daniel have said is certainly applies to the city of Pasadena, but I want to give you some specifics. City of Pasadena has been both directly and indirectly affected by the Eden Canyon fires. Approximately 150 residential units were impacted, and 5 non-residential structures were impacted, including daycare facilities, etc. The city is in the process of contacting residents, which is, a little bit of a difficult process right now since so many people had to evacuate and have been displaced. In terms of the city, we're a city of 144,000 population. We have a little over 2,000 employees, and over 60 of them lost their homes. PUSD, which serves both Pasadena, Altadena, as well as Sierra Madre, was severely impacted, as you can imagine. Of the 14,000 student population at PUSD, 10,000 apparently were evacuated. And I would assume that primarily those are Altadena residents. Elliott Middle School was burned, and a couple of other of the school facilities were severely damaged. In terms of our arts and cultural organizations, as you can imagine, many have lost revenue, whether or not they were impacted directly in terms of their actual facilities. They had lost revenue because they obviously could not function and closed down. A lot of them lost rehearsal or performance spaces elsewhere and had to be relocated or accommodated. We thank the county for making their offer of county facilities, and we also have had some local Pasadena organizations who have been able to accommodate some of these folks. And of course, employees have been impacted. The Armory has reported that 20 of their teaching artists had homes that were lost, and certainly at least one organization had an executive director who had a home that was lost. It goes throughout, and you'll continue to hear this, I'm sure, when Sophia from City of Santa Monica speaks. I will say that in terms of the city's Cultural Affairs Division, we are looking to simplify things this year with the annual grants program, guidelines. We're maintaining kind of everything as status quo, and we anticipate utilizing the survey results to generate additional resources for intermediate and long-term recovery. And we certainly are looking forward to continued work with the other arts agencies at the state, regional, and local level. We're very appreciative of the outreach that we received immediately from all of you, and we appreciate the resources that you provide. We continue to share resources with our community at all levels, and hope that all of you will take care. Thank you for including us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Sophia.
Good morning. Thank you to LA County and my colleagues before me. The ways that we have been connecting is a silver lining in all of this. I need to acknowledge the team here who have been working dynamically and nimbly to be responsive. That would be Natalie Marrero, Patricia Garza, Lindsay Schoenholtz, Allison Ostrovsky, Naomi Okuyama, and our Recreation and Arts Director, Jenny Rogers, plus our Office of Emergency Management and First Responders. It's been a real privilege to see how we've been coming together. With the coming rains, we're also prepared for potential landslides right now, continuing access on PCH. So for us, this is ongoing still. In City of Santa Monica's Cultural Affairs, we're organizing around 5 big areas: funding and financial resources, the city's physical spaces, resource sharing and community building, which is gathering and workshops, city policies and practices, and partnerships. For funding, we're really focused on providing stability for our local nonprofits and individuals so that we can remain consistent with our current financial resource allocations. With the unallocated funds, clarifying and redirecting those so that we can help with fast movement of money out into the field, and exploring opportunities to increase and develop our capacity to secure external funds, especially through our sister organization, the Santa Monica Arts Foundation. With the physical space, we're prioritizing low cost or free space to artists and organizations who have been impacted by these emergencies, especially at our airport art studios and the Miles Playhouse. We're utilizing cultural facilities to support and provide resources to the arts community impacted by distributing aid, housing, hosting community gatherings, etc. We're committed to providing these workshops and providing personalized guidance, supporting with immediate and long-term emergency preparedness for artists and organizations. This won't be the last emergency we all are facing. So starting to look at the future as we prepare, as we respond to the now, offering opportunities to gather the arts community for processing grief and healing, bringing together art therapists so that we can actually have those spaces. Looking at policies and practices, we're reviewing and making adjustments to our program criteria, when possible, reducing administrative and programmatic burden to best support the field, continuing to review existing city policies and procedures that are limiting the creative economy. This is really about affordability. So how can we remove some of those barriers? And finally, partnerships, which is what we're here today doing, developing robust partnerships with our internal city team to enhance the division's mission and strategic goals, and to be in alignment with our emergency responses and these external community partnerships to support our long-term goals and vision to support arts and culture across all LA County and in Santa Monica. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And if anyone needs to find the websites and the resources to any of those agencies, they are also listed on LA County Arts and Culture's website. You can find links to those. I'm pleased that we're going to have all the next speakers, and just want to acknowledge Angie Gaspar Milanovic, LA County Department of Arts and Culture's Director of Grants and Professional Development, who will be taking us through and shepherding us through the rest of the speakers. Thanks, Angie, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. We are very honored to have this slate of speakers with us here today. We have several presentations. I just want to remind everyone who is in the audience, if you have specific questions, please use the Q&A feature. And our team will be posting links in the chat, hyperlinks, so that you can go directly to resources you need. And I'm thrilled that Brandy Richard Thompson is here with us this morning. She's the Public Affairs Office of the Regional Administrator with FEMA Region 9. She will be presenting for about 15 minutes. If we have time, we will take a few questions in the Q&A, so please use that so that we can lift those questions up. And Brandy, we will pass it over to you for your presentation.
Good morning, everyone. I am not Brandy, who is absolutely amazing. Brandy did get pulled away. My name is Nicole Wilson, and I am going to be the next best stand-in for Brandy. So I'm going to start this. I start my comments by saying, first of all, good morning. And I want to begin by just making sure that I express my deepest gratitude for the invitation for today's event on behalf of Brandy. I know we've been doing quite a bit of these community type of events, and so we are very grateful for the opportunity to have the opportunities to just tell you a little bit about what FEMA is and how we are here to provide assistance in the aftermath of this disaster. So as we know, the recent wildfires had just a profound impact on this community, on artists and their very, very important work. We recognize that recovery is about more than just rebuilding homes. It's about restoring lives, livelihoods, and that creative spirit that makes this industry so special. FEMA is here to ensure you and to ensure that you do have some resources and the support you need as you move forward and begin that rebuilding process. So I'm just going to go over a few things. One, I want you to know, or we know, that many in the entertainment community have been affected by these devastating wildfires. Recovery is a long and challenging process. We know that recovery and rebuilding from this wildfire is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time. And sometimes that's 3 to 5 years before people feel like they can breathe or exhale. But I want you to know that FEMA is here. We're committed to standing with you every step of the way. And to date, FEMA has distributed over $57 million in aid to the wildfire survivors here in LA County. That's helping with home repairs, helping with personal property losses, medical expenses, and other urgent needs. If you have not yet applied for FEMA assistance, we highly encourage you that you do go ahead and do that, particularly before that March 10th deadline. And when we say the March 10th deadline, we're not saying that your case will be wrapped up by March 10th. We're just saying that we need you in the system before then, and then any needs that have to occur after that, we can assure that we can continue in the process. So that doesn't mean that your case will be wrapped up. So if you don't have a document, don't feel like you need to have that to apply. Get in the system, and then you might just have to stay in touch with us to provide documents that weren't accessible to you at the time of your application. Okay, there are multiple ways that you can apply. You can do that by calling 800-621-3362. You can visit disasterassistance.gov and apply online, or you can use the FEMA mobile app, download that and apply on the app. And then we also have recovery centers open in LA County if you prefer to speak face-to-face with someone, if that's how you prefer. If you want help walking through that application, someone from the FEMA team will talk you through that application question by question and help you understand what's needed to get you through that process. For those of you who have been displaced from your homes, FEMA offers transitional sheltering assistance. And what that means is we'll help cover your hotel stay, and that for an as you look for a more permanent solution, will help cover some of your hotel expenses. We also have rental assistance. So if while you are looking for a place to stay, you find a place you want to rent, stay in touch with us. We offer rental assistance for up to 18 months during this process. And we also have a lodging expense reimbursement. So if you when you apply for assistance and you have not been contacted by FEMA to say, hey, you're approved for that transitional sheltering assistance, then we can help. So we can still help cover some of the hotel expenses that you incurred. So you would have to likely pay those expenses out of pocket first and then submit the receipts to FEMA, and we can do our very best to help cover some of those costs. FEMA disaster recovery centers, as I said, are open and available to you in Los Angeles County. We have locations in Altadena and at the UCLA Research Park West. These centers provide in-person support, as I mentioned, including assistance with applications and so many other things. We like to call this a one-stop shop. So many people left their homes with nothing in the urgency to get out. And so that means you may have left without a birth certificate, without a driver's license, without some very other important documents. At our recovery centers, DMV is there, Vital Records is there, Public Health is there. You can find mental health services there. The Small Business Administration is there, Public Works is there, the EPA is there. So we like to call this a one-stop shop where you can try to get as much of the items replaced as possible, as opposed to running across the county or across the city to try to get those documents replaced. Also, we're talking about debris removal, right? So you may have heard that there is a two-step process here as we begin this cleanup process. The Environmental Protection Agency is currently out in the field removing hazardous materials from properties. Those are things that you would have had to remove anyway. Some things that you may have had in your home, like paint, like propane tanks, large pieces of asbestos. We know some of these homes were pretty old and may have had asbestos. So they're picking up those large hazardous materials. And behind them will be the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers will begin their work, and that means they're coming in to remove some of the building materials, the steel and other large objects, before they begin removing the ash from the property. Now, this requires an opt-in to give the Corps of Engineers permission to go on your property. And so to do that, you would contact the Department of the LA County. And I do have a website that I can be sure to provide, but you could go onto the LA County website. There's also a phone number that I can give you to get where you can get that process started. But opting in means that you give the Corps of Engineers to go on your property to remove those things, and they will stay in touch with you. So I believe it's 3 days before they go on your property, they'll give you a call and say, hey, we're going to go on your property. You're more than welcome to come out and watch them at a distance. We want to make sure that you're safe. And you can watch them and, kind of be present for the work that they do on your property. So that is an option to you, but the important thing about that is it is an opt-in. So you do want to complete a right of entry form if that is what you prefer. But it's not what you have to do. Some people prefer to conduct that ash removal on their own, and sometimes insurance will pay for that. The caveat is if you opt in to have the Corps of Engineers do it and your insurance gives you $50,000 for debris removal, then you will have to, write that check for $50,000 to the county. You'll have to pay that over to the county because, again, FEMA can't duplicate benefits, meaning we can't do a service or pay for something that has already been done. So there's that. And we know that sometimes disasters attach or attract bad players. We know that criminals come out and try to steal people's identity or apply even in your name. If that has happened to you, we highly encourage that you go over to one of our recovery centers and talk to one of our specialists who can work you through that process and begin, number one, to identify the person who may have applied in your name or tried to steal your identity, and then get the process moving to make sure you can get the assistance that you need. But a few things to remember. FEMA will never charge you to complete an application. That is a service that we provide to you at no cost. FEMA inspectors will never charge you to inspect your home. That is a service that is provided to you at no cost. We will always wear a badge, a government issued badge. If you are concerned or if you believe that this may not be an actual FEMA representative, always feel free to ask to see that badge. And if you just want some further clarification, please call us, that 1-800-621-3362 number, and ask if indeed an inspector named Nicole Wilson has contacted you to inspect your property, and we can verify that for you over the phone. So to give you some solace in knowing that it is legit. Also, we understand that this is a very, very stressful time. Disaster is very hard. Loss is very hard. And that extends beyond financial loss. We know that losing pictures and the memories that you had created in your home is also very, very hard and very traumatic. The entertainment business thrives on resilience, and but no one should have to navigate this time alone. So if you need some assistance, please feel free to contact someone, to talk to someone about your experience. There is free confidential mental health resources available. You can call the 988 Crisis Lifeline or the Disaster Distress Helpline. That number is 1-800-985-5990, and they are there to support you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, I do want to reiterate that the application deadline is March 10th, 2025. We want to make sure you're in that system. If you have insurance and your insurance letter has not returned to you before March 10th, that's okay. And you haven't missed assistance from FEMA. But what happens is, even if you receive that letter on March 12th, then you just come back to us, log into your case, or come see us at a recovery center and provide that, and then we can move forward to continue processing your application. Again, if you have the documents you need, if you don't have the documents you need, we highly encourage that you go ahead and apply for that assistance as soon as possible. In that, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. What we've done is we have, and so appreciate your time and coming in. We know how busy FEMA is at this moment, and so we absolutely appreciate your time this morning. I am going to lift up a few of the questions in the chat. Um, One question is because we have a lot of nonprofit arts organizations on this call this morning. One question is I've tried to apply for FEMA aid for our smoke mitigation, damage, and losses. But when I go to the FEMA website for nonprofits and click to register, I just get an error. Is there any advice about finding a way through this?
Oh, that is a really good question. Are you applying as an individual who is, or are you trying to apply on behalf of the organization?
From the question, it looks like that they are trying to apply as the nonprofit.
hmm So I want to clarify that FEMA offers assistance to individuals to make sure that their primary home is habitable. As it relates to the nonprofit, there is some public assistance that could be available. If you can provide the name of this person, someone we can contact to try to get some clarification on how the nonprofit should proceed as the agency and not as the individual, shoot that information over and we'll make sure to get back with you on some further guidance on that. But I can say that the Small Business Administration does offer low interest loans as well to organizations that have experienced some loss in this situation. So they're depending on the type of nonprofit organization, it might be that the route that is required is the Small Business Administration. But if you put the information, make sure we have that information, we'll be sure to follow up.
Thank you. I sent, since we're using the Q&A feature and not the chat, I've asked for that privately, and we will follow up. And also LA County Department of Economic Opportunity is the next presenter, so there may be some additional resources there. One of the other questions that's come up is there any word of an extension to the FEMA deadline that's currently March 10th?
As of now, we haven't heard that there will be an extension. We know that sometimes there are extensions after disaster, but we have not heard at this time whether that March 10th application deadline will be extended. So if you haven't yet applied for assistance, please do your best to get in before March 10th. If there is an extension, usually, you'll hear that before the March 10th deadline, but I just don't know how quickly or how soon before March 10th that information may be available or that day may be extended. So given right now that I have not heard of a possible extension, I'd try my best to get in before then.
And just as a follow-up to that question, I think as folks have been trying to recover documentation and are in contact with their insurance companies, even if they don't have everything in place, they should submit an application and things may be coming after, correct?
Absolutely. And so what'll happen is you may receive a letter. So if you don't have some of the documentation that's being asked for, or you don't have your letter from your insurance, you will get a letter back saying that you're ineligible for FEMA assistance. Please don't be discouraged. That is just FEMA's way of saying we need more information. And that letter that you get from FEMA will tell you, hey, we need this document, or we can't verify your identity, or you have insurance and we need that letter. So be sure to read the letter you receive from FEMA in its entirety. It will tell you what we need. Do not be discouraged if you see a letter saying you are ineligible. It may just be that we need that additional information.
Thank you so much for highlighting that there may just be this is another opportunity to provide additional information, and there is a window to provide that. Another question that's come up is that someone submitted their case on January 15th, but they haven't received a response yet. What is the time frame? Can you give us any estimate on receiving funds, or does it really just depend on each case?
So January 15th, and so we're a little over 2 weeks beyond that. So the first thing I would do is, if you can, go online to see if there is some additional information that is needed. If you go online and look up your case and see if it indeed has kicked back that to say that FEMA needs more information before moving forward with processing the application, make sure you do that and make sure that you read what it is that is missing. And then if it says that the case has moved forward, that it's good, it's approved, and you still haven't heard anything, please, if you can, go over to one of the recovery centers, talk to someone face to face, and they will, kind of help you figure out what the holdup is, what may be the delay. And if there is an issue, try to, resolve it right there so we can get those funds released.
Thank you. There's another question from a renter who now has to find a new permanent rental, and the rent is now higher. Is there rental assistance through FEMA?
Absolutely. FEMA will help cover some of the rent for up to 18 months. And so what happens is we'll pay that out 2 months in 2 months and month increments. So if you are a homeowner, for example, and you're renting, you can get that up to 18 months. If you're a renter and you're renting, you can get assistance for up to 18 months. And that's why we always say stay in touch with us, make sure we know what your current status is, how we can continue to provide some assistance. If you have not applied for FEMA assistance, though, please make sure you do. And when you do, make sure that we understand that you are a renter, and or you might need a place to rent as you continue to move through this recovery process.
Thank you. And another question about from a renter who lived with two other roommates. How does FEMA distribute that financial help?
Yeah, so if in situations like that, when you have multiple roommate situations, um, as long as everyone in the home has some sort of documentation that verifies that they are indeed renting there, if there's a rental agreement or a lease agreement that clearly shows that they are paying rent at this location, then each one of the roommates who have that documentation can apply for assistance and can receive assistance. We just will need some documentation that verifies that.
Thank you. Another question, and we have, I think, maybe time for maybe 2 or 3 questions, then we'll move on to the next presentation. If my husband applied for FEMA, do I also need to apply? He put me as a co-applicant, but we're concerned because I was the one who financed the home, so my loan officer was saying I should have been the one to apply. My husband is on the grant deed as well, though, and his name is on all the escrow papers.
Yeah, no, just the one person in the home needs to apply, and if you're on as a co-applicant, then you should be okay.
Wonderful, thank you. And I am a renter in the Palisades fire, and I have applied for FEMA aid and have received it, but the house was partially damaged, and the owner who doesn't live in the house but owns the property, can that person apply for FEMA assistance too, even though they live in a different state?
So FEMA provides assistance to individuals' primary home. So we don't provide assistance for secondary homes. Our goal is to make sure the person who was impacted has a place to live. And so we don't offer assistance for secondary homes. We don't offer assistance for rental properties. If the homeowner in that situation is looking for assistance on that property, then he or she would have to uh, more than likely work with the Small Business Administration because that is income generating for them. We consider that a business.
Great, thank you. And I believe there was a question with resharing the telephone number for mental health assistance.
Absolutely. The disaster distress helpline number, that is 1-800-985-5990.
5990. I'm placing this in the chat. Excuse me. I'm so sorry, everyone. Well, we are going to move on to the next presentation. And if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. And we will now move on to a presentation from, I'm so sorry, LA County Department of Economic Opportunity.
Thanks so much, Angie. Hope you got a glass of water there. My name is Maurice Goldstein. I'm a program manager with the Department of Economic Opportunity. Layla Lee is wrapping up another speaking engagement and hopes to be on shortly. If possible, it'd be great to pull up a few of the slides that we had prepared. And I wanted to talk about supporting businesses and workers impacted by winds and wildfires by the County Department of Economic Opportunity. Next slide, please. So who we are, the Department of Economic Opportunity helps people work, live, and do business in LA County. We take a regional approach to jobs and training, entrepreneurship development, supporting small businesses and providing small business services, certification and training, MWLSBE, industry cluster development. We do business attraction and access to capital, and real estate and capital development. You can visit opportunity.lacounty.gov to learn more and get connected. And we have been mobilizing resources, partners, and programs to ensure that we have had a rapid response and recovery for local businesses, workers, and communities impacted by the wildfires. Next slide, please. You can go to the site listed here, bit.ly DEO Wildfire Response. This is a web page that we have stood up that holds a number of business and nonprofit resources, and as well as for workers. So you can see where the local assistance centers are, variety of business recovery webinars and events, and then a range of business resources from loans, grants, and a range of other resources. So please make sure to visit our site for a full listing, and we updated it frequently. Next slide, please. We have a table and staff at the local assistance disaster recovery centers at the 2 locations at UCLA Research Park West and the Altadena Disaster Recovery Center. If you haven't visited and need to, please do visit and see the DEO staff there for any assistance. Again, they're open. It's open for the public from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we've been there since January 15th, and we'll continue to be there for the duration. Next slide, please. So I'll talk a little bit about resources for businesses. And on the next slide, we have, and this is also on our website, there's a variety of places to go for loans, such as the Small Business Administration. It's 4% for small businesses, 3.625 for nonprofits, up to 30-year payback loans. First payment is deferred for 12 months. And this includes home disaster loans, business physical disaster loans, economic injury disaster loans for lost equipment, inventory, and replacement. Please also check the state with the Disaster Relief Loan Guarantee Program, Jumpstart Loan Program, and so on. And for community loans such as the Jewish Free Loan Association, PACE, and make sure to connect with your CDFIs. We'll share a little bit more on CDFIs on the next slide. We also, the county and city of LA have been working to stand up a Los Angeles Region Small Business and Worker Relief Fund. Information about this relief fund will be available at lacounty.gov/relief. You can see that link over there. The Small Business Fund will provide cash grants of up to $25,000 to start to recover and rebuild, and the Worker Fund will provide grants of up to $2,000. We anticipate being able to have applications opening this month. So please check back on this webpage here for the latest information. We will also be ensuring that all local partners, CDFIs, have the information to be able to work with you in applying for the loans or for the grants. Next slide, please. Here's a listing of regional CDFIs. Please make sure to connect with CDFIs for any loan or grant support. Next slide, please. I also wanted to share that the county has launched a website called B2B Space Share. It's available at the website here, b2bspaceshare.lacounty.gov. On this, there have been a number of businesses that are generously donating space within their business for fire impacted businesses. I believe we have over 25 postings now. If you know of any businesses or spaces that want to go on here and post and donate space, please direct them to the site to post. And if you are a fire impacted business seeking to share a space with another business, please go onto this website and submit a match for an appropriate space. Thank you. Next slide, please. Additionally, through our legal aid partners, Bates-Cedec and Public Counsel, we offer legal aid services for small businesses, including knowing your rights after a disaster. Here is the legal aid hotline, and you can go on lalegalhelp.org to connect with the legal aid team. They will connect you with their attorneys and provide legal aid for commercial lease reviews. They'll help guide you on any tenant rights or eviction protection, pardon for the background noise here, and assistance navigating insurance policy and claims, and then debt negotiation or for any contract support. Next slide, please. You can also scan this QR code here for any assistance and referrals for businesses. Our Office of Small Business has a concierge service. You can call and speak with them to connect you to any available resources and just talk through any of your business needs. You can also join in person at 4716 East Cesar Chavez. We have been proud to be able to work with our partners, SBA, the state of California, City of LA, Pasadena, in compiling and organizing the Los Angeles regional resources. If you go to this link here, bit.ly/LA regional resources, you can see the range of regional resources, and note this is translated into multiple languages if you'd like to further promote this. Thank you. Lastly, on my side, just wanted to note, please stay updated and connected through our weekly webinar series every Friday from 11 a.m. through 12 p.m. On Zoom with Together for LA for small businesses impacted by wildfires to join this weekly webinar and hear the latest updates on resources. With that, I'll pass it over to Kate Vacanti.
Thanks, Maurice. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kate Vacanti. I am the Assistant Director over the Workforce Development Branch here at DEO. Just joined DEO last month, so still a bit new to the department. So we'll do my best to share the resources we have to offer, and also, happy to answer any questions or follow up on anything that I can't answer today. But I'm going to cover some of the resources that we have been highlighting for workers in wake of the disasters. So you can go to the next slide. So these are a couple of resources I know that are going to be covered a little bit later this morning, but these are some of the resources that we've been highlighting on our DEO webpage, Fire Response kind of hub. Want to make sure that we're gathering all the different resources out there to be one central place for people to access. So I won't cover the first two, but did want to highlight the California Restaurant Foundation's Restaurants Care Program for anybody who might also be in the restaurant industry ministry, this organization is offering temporary funds to, in the form of emergency relief grants between $350 to $1,500. So there is a link there to check that out to find out how you can apply to receive those funds. And there's also just, check out the webpage that Maurice mentioned. We're, trying to update it as often as possible with additional resources that are out there. So people can go to one place to get access to a variety of resources to help out. I also wanted to highlight our employment services that we offer at DEO. We have a network of job centers that are called the America's Job Centers of California, or also known as AJCCs. And these are centers where you can go to get a range of different employment services, whether it's attending a resume or interview workshop, getting one-on-one career advisement. You can also access no-cost skills training and supportive services. We also, some of our centers are co-located with EDD staff. So it's a place where you can go and also get help with applying for unemployment insurance or disaster unemployment assistance, healthcare coverage, et cetera. We have staff that are really ready to help people who may be laid off or maybe lost their jobs because of closures. So this is a place you can go to get a range of services. There's a link here, ajcc.lacounty.gov, where you can go to find all of the AJCCs. We have 18 altogether that are operated by the county. And you can also see here, we have what are called comprehensive AJCCs, and those are the ones where you can also get help with unemployment assistance. They're co-located with the EDD staff. So check out that link. As I mentioned, we have 18 AJCCs that are operated by the county, but there's actually 40 job centers across the LA region. So there's really, many places you can go nearby where you can access the same range of services. And many of these are also co-located with EDD staff. Again, job readiness services, no cost training, connection to employers, help if you're looking for a new job, getting placed into a new job, as well as different supportive services. Coming soon, it's not quite ready yet, but we were very fortunate to receive, actually the region as a whole received $20 million from the State Employment Development Department and the U.S. Department of Labor for temporary jobs. And these are jobs meant for people who were directly impacted by the fires, who may have lost work because of the fires, to get some temporary employment to help with cleanup work, humanitarian assistance, et cetera. Folks who lost work due to the fires are also eligible to receive no-cost skills training and a range of other supportive services, stipends, et cetera, that will help directly towards cleanup and recovery of the region. So we're hoping to launch these jobs probably March or April. So if you are interested, definitely this will all be through our AJCCs. That's a place where you can go to access these jobs. So stay tuned for more information as it becomes available in the coming weeks and months about those temporary jobs. Next slide. I also just wanted to share a little bit more about unemployment insurance. I know Brandy covered this already, but again, as I mentioned, want to make sure people know if you need help with applying, you can go to any of our AJCCs, give a call, go to the comprehensive centers where you can get in-person support. DEO has also been at the disaster recovery centers. We have staff there who can assist with connecting to any of our services. And we're also, EDD staff are there as well. So there are many different places to get help with applying for unemployment insurance. But this benefit is available for people who may have lost income due to the fires. And the waiting period has been waived for disaster victims. You can earn up to $450 per week. We've included the link here to start the application. There's also, again, as I mentioned, here's all the places where you can go to get help, and there's also a hotline. So if you haven't already, definitely reach out so you can apply for unemployment insurance. Next slide. This is a little bit more information about disaster unemployment assistance. Again, I know Brandy covered this and just want to reemphasize the March 10th deadline. So, make sure to get in your claim by then and reach out to any of our centers or the DRCs to get assistance with this. We've also included a helpful fact sheet here that lays out eligibility. DUA is available to more people, whether you're self-employed or have different types of work situations. This resource is available to more people who may have been impacted or lost work due to the fires. And this is a little bit more about benefits offered through EDD. So some other disaster benefits include if you became sick or hurt and can't work because of the disaster, you may qualify for state disability insurance. Or if you're caring for a family member hurt in the disaster, you can qualify for paid family leave benefits. So we've included the link here where you can get more information about these benefits and how you can apply. And so that covers it for workers. I did also want to just mention the worker relief fund that Maurice covered that is coming soon. We should have, so that link was already included, lacounty.gov/relief. Go there to find out more about those two funds, small businesses and workers. We expect to have more information posted either tomorrow or Thursday. And then we're planning for the application to go live on Thursday. So, continue to check back at that link because we'll have information very soon. For workers, you can apply to receive up to $2,000 in cash assistance. We want to prioritize people who either permanently or temporarily lost employment due to the fires. Also, people who may have also lost their homes due to the fires. Our AJCCs as well as the DRCs will be places where you can go to get help applying for the funds. So more information will be coming on that soon as well, but wanted to just make sure everybody is aware that application will be opening up on Thursday. It'll be, we'll be accepting applications until February 24th. So I think it's about 3 weeks during which you can apply. So definitely encourage people to, if you need some help, reach out to an AJCC to get in-person assistance or over the phone assistance if needed. You can also apply online on your own, but if you need some help submitting the application or getting documentation together, or if you're missing documentation, the AJCs is a place where you can go to get help with that. That's it for me.
Thank you so much, Kate and Maurice, for your presentations. It's a lot of ground that was covered in terms of services provided by the Department of Economic Opportunity. I did want to flag a few of the questions that have come in. If somebody could provide a link to the DEO weekly webinars in the chat, that would be appreciated. Another question is, how long will the B2B spaces be available? Or does that depend on need?
I'm happy to answer that one. So the site is has been stood up for the purpose of support for disaster response. For any individual postings, that's at the discretion of the space donator, but that will be listed on the website about the duration of availability for a particular space. So when you're in, take a look for that.
Fantastic, thank you. Another question that came in is that we are in the Highland Park area. We work from home and on site through LA documenting architecture. We have had stoppage in work due to the fire's smoke, and we have so much smoke that came in. We have an old home with windows that don't seal properly. We tried to clean on our own, but it's been a challenge. Are there any supports that they could qualify for from the DEO's office?
Yes, I would say I think that you may be eligible for either the small business or worker relief fund. There's going to be when we launch those applications, there will be a lot of information on eligibility. And so, kind of FAQs to help you better understand whether or not you would qualify for those two funds. So, look out for that information, and also, please reach out to us if you are still unsure of whether or not you may be eligible. We'll have a number you can call to talk through that. I don't know if Layla or Maurice, you wanted to add anything on that.
No, I think that's great, but I also want to note that for the the small business relief grant. We did put an aside just for businesses that actually work from their home base, or they're independent contractors that primarily operate from the location that were impacted. So hopefully that will support to support what you're looking for.
Great, thank you. A few iterations of this question have come up, and that is, does the loss of annual revenue apply? If a nonprofit arts organization's venue that we were hired to perform in several times a year was destroyed in the fire, and I think that because some nonprofits don't have a venue space or a performing space, but if their now loss of revenue is due to destruction of other venues, will they be eligible for any supports from the Department of Economic Opportunity?
Yeah, the grant itself too also applies to those, like I said, that don't necessarily have. We have a set aside just for those that do not necessarily have a business within the location, but they are also they can show and prove that they operate primarily from the location. If you can provide that type of documentation, I believe that you can you'd be eligible for this grant. Having said that, I just want to forewarn you, given that we do have limited funding available for this grant at this point, and we are prioritizing businesses that have been, where they have been fully destroyed, and that's really like our tier 1 eligibility, as opposed to revenue loss. It's really, after businesses that have been destroyed or been, significantly impacted in the location itself.
Great, thank you. This is another question I think that's come up a few different ways. Homes are still standing, but we had to leave due to bad air, poor health from the fires. Is there support for renters who were displaced due to poor air quality and had to pay for displacement costs?
And these are businesses, correct, that were, or at-home businesses?
This sounds like it's an individual, so a renter.
Yeah, renters, I cannot speak to that just because there are other programs specifically for housing support services. But for business, however, if you were someone that needs help relocating because of the impact, as Maurice kind of noted before, I would use a B2B website, right? The Space Share program. And, there are other programs available right now just to support businesses that want to relocate.
Great, thank you so much. My thanks to everyone at the Department of Economic Opportunity. We are tracking questions and we will send these over to the department as well as to FEMA. There are several questions here that we could not get to directly, so we will be following up with that. And we are going to move on to our next presentation, which is from the Center of Cultural Innovation. This is the Getty's LA Community Wildfire Relief Fund that's being administered by CCI, and we are thrilled to have Catherine Bray-Simons here. She is the Relief Fund Manager who will be providing a presentation. Catherine, are you ready to go?
I'm here. Thank you so much, Angie. Hi, everyone. How are you doing out there? We're thinking of you. I'm really happy to be here together with you today, and thanks to the county for having us. And thanks to the Department of Economic Opportunity for promoting this one as an opportunity for workers as well as artists. If we could go to the next slide, the title slide of my presentation, I'll just share, as many folks know, this fund is the result of a Getty-led coalition of major arts organizations and philanthropists working together to provide some emergency relief to artists and art workers following the fires of last month. And I'll just highlight, this particular round of funding from this fund is intended as a rapid response to mitigate really acute financial hardship of this moment among individuals who are, very stressed at this moment, but also kind of at a community level. The hope is that to whatever extent the fund is able to alleviate some of that immediate stress, that can help us at a community level kind of stick together through this period of uncertainty and hopefully mitigate some of the potential longer term displacement impacts that no one wants to see. So next slide, just for some context there. I'm going to just give the kind of brass tacks overview for this opportunity. So this fund is for artists and arts workers affected by either the Eaton or the Palisades fires, and with this aid being intended to mitigate, as I said, the significant financial hardship of this moment. It's cash relief to individuals. It's not taxable income, and that's owing to the fact that the Eaton and Palisades fires were federally declared disasters. And so that kicks off the Stafford Act, which means that aid addressing those two disasters in particular is considered to be non-taxable income. And once payment is made, those funds are unrestricted. They can be used in whatever way makes sense for you to alleviate that financial hardship. Applicants can request up to $10,000. And so that's meant, really the intent there is that this is meant to be more strategic relief, right? This isn't kind of a couple $100s to buy clothes and toiletries. This is really imagined as a way to maybe help you put a down payment on an apartment. But I will qualify that while that's the case, the fund may not be in a position to ultimately fulfill everyone's full request. So just have that in mind. And, and further, that's why we, in the guidelines, ask your consideration, just thinking about your financial situation and what hardship you may be experiencing relative to others. The fund does have measures to make sure that we are kind of prioritizing those individuals who have completely lost their homes or their studios, maybe who did not have insurance at the time of the fires, don't have generational wealth, etc. And all those priorities are very transparently spelled out in the guidelines. So refer for more on that, just check out the guidelines. The application's intended to be simple. We anticipate that between kind of reading the guidelines and the FAQs and getting oriented, and then actually populating the application, say maybe 20 minutes of reading material, 40-ish minutes of writing in your responses to the application portal itself. Maybe in total, it's an hour of your time. It is designed kind of with the understanding that people filling out these forms have experienced trauma, and re-describing this experience can be re-traumatizing. So the application is meant to be sensitive to that. And there's a couple other supports I'll mention in a little while that may be helpful there as well. For example, a trusted friend or family member or coworker can actually complete an application for you on your behalf. You just have to be the one to kind of sign and submit, if that's helpful there. There are eligibility criteria that you must meet in order to be able to apply. I'm going to go into that in more detail next. The deadline, as I said, this is a rapid relief effort. The deadline is coming right up. The deadline's February 18th, 5 p.m. Pacific time. And CCI is looking to try to make notifications to folks about whether they're going to receive any funding and how much by the end of the month. So that's the timeline. Let's head to the next slide, and I'll dive into a little bit more of the kind of nitty-gritty around the eligibility piece. So you are eligible to apply for this funding if you were displaced by either the Eaton or Palisades fires, and that means your home, your rented apartment, or your art making studio was lost or damaged or was located in a mandatory evacuation zone, and you're either an artist or an arts worker. There's also some fine print. You have to be 18 to apply. You can only apply one time. I'll direct you to the guidelines for some of that further fine print around the eligibility, but these are the two primary criteria to be thinking about. And I'm going to just kind of unpack each of them one at a time. So let's go to the next slide, and we'll talk about this displacement criteria first. So basically, this aid is available to people displaced by either the Eaton or the Palisades fires. So that means your address, like the address of your home, your apartment, or your studio as of January 7th, would correspond to the damage maps of either the Eaton or Palisades fires that are maintained on that official LA County recovery website. And the URL is here on the slide. And I'm sure folks are very familiar with these maps. The application will ask for proof of residence at this address. Okay, we can go to the next slide, and I'll talk more about kind of next what we mean by artist and arts worker. So first, what do we mean by artist? Well, it's really a huge range of disciplines that are welcome here. This list just begins to name kind of some of this list is provided with intent to demonstrate to you we mean an inclusive range of practice. This list is not the be all end all. It does not include every single artistic discipline that's being practiced out there. And also, of course, regarding traditional and cultural practices, you may be a culture bearer or a bearer of a traditional form of expression that holds meaning for you and for your community. If that's the case, you're also eligible to apply. That might mean you work with hair or with food or in nature or with tattoo that is in some way really culturally significant in your community. So just to make very clear, no one should disqualify themselves because they're thinking that their particular form of expression, if they identify as an artist, doesn't count for this opportunity. It's a wide range of disciplines. The other point I really want to underscore is that there are no specific credentials required here. You may have a degree to practice your art form, or maybe your grandmother taught you the skills that are foundational to your aesthetic or cultural or performance practice, and that holds some significance for your community. So that's just really important also to know. We don't want anyone disqualifying themselves for whatever. I'm not a real artist, quote unquote. What we're really looking for is just some documentation of your practice as being one that's public facing. So you may have a website, you may have social media of your photography that is artistic photography that you maintain. You may have an IMDb profile, or say you sing in a church choir. If you could take a photo of a program that shows you, lists your name as part of a performance. If you've got pictures of yourself performing folklorico at a community festival or at a family event, you are eligible. So again, it's a public-facing, public benefiting practice of really, if you identify as an artist and you can show that public-facing practice, you're eligible here. That's kind of the bottom line. And if you have any questions, if you're not sure, please do reach out to us at relief@cciarts.org. And now I'll ask if the county would please drop that contact info into the chat. We also have phone numbers, which I will not narrate out loud, but we also encourage you to email or to call. If you're a Spanish speaker, the 415 number that will be provided here will connect you to Spanish speaking staff of CCI. We're very happy to take your questions about the artist eligibility criteria. Okay, next let's go to arts workers. So what do we mean by arts workers? Well, again, it's a really expansive list. This is not a complete list. It's just meant to begin to demonstrate to you. It's really a range that we're considering here. The kind of rules of thumb are it's staff performing any role as long as it's at an LA County-based arts organization. Okay, that might be, you know, a great big nonprofit museum. That might be a small private gallery. It could be a publishing house. It could be a music venue. So I hope that starts to describe the range. If your employer is an arts, culture, entertainment, design employer, and you perform any role, whether it's full-time, part-time, or by active contract, you're eligible to apply. You're a groundskeeper, security, you work in food service, you work in retail, you're an usher at a performance venue. So hopefully that starts to kind of jog the imagination, give you a sense of the range of what we mean by arts worker. And here we'll be asking for just some proof of your active employment or active contract at that arts organization, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, as of January 7th. Okay. So to apply, you'll visit our website, cciarts.org. You'll be prompted to create a submittable account. This is just a popular platform for managing grant applications. You may already have a profile with Submittable. It's easy to create a new one. The application asks pretty simple questions about, first you'll be prompted to take an eligibility quiz, which will just, if you are kind of concerned about some of those details I was covering around eligibility, don't be too hung up about resolving those now. Just go in, create an account, start an application, and you'll just answer a series of just a handful of kind of yes/no questions. And that will help you determine whether you're eligible or not to proceed with an application. And then the application itself does ask just some simple questions. Some of it is just to gauge the level of like your financial situation. It is sensitive information, and we're very careful and cognizant of that. We want to understand how you've been affected by the fire, and also just we're trying to understand what are the needs of our community. What is our community going through right now? So that's a little bit of what you'll expect there with the application. There is an application preview. I'll mention this next. There's an application preview available on our website, which you can kind of look over the whole thing and get a sense of like where the application is going to take you as far as questions asked. And then we will ask you again to provide those pieces of documentation of your proof of residence and your proof of a public-facing art practice, if you're identifying as an artist and applying that way, or evidence of your active employment or your active contract at an arts organization at the time of January 7th. Next slide. And if I leave you with one idea, underscore, CCI is here to help. We very much want to help people understand this opportunity and to be supported in applying if you're eligible. So know that the guidelines are online. The application preview is online. We have a really good set of FAQs. Everything, all those materials are available in both English and Spanish. Someone you trust can fill out an application on your behalf. The guidelines have instructions for how that person can do that for you. There's something in Submittable called like a collaborator role. And then they're able to kind of identify themselves as your helper in applying. The Submittable account will need to be in the applicant's name. So that's tied to ultimately to make sure that we're able to make a payment to the right person. But there's more instruction on how to proceed that way if that's something that makes sense for you and would be helpful. CCI's staff are really trained up in this program, and we're here standing by to help you in applying. So if you don't have a friend or a coworker or family member who you would trust in helping you kind of complete this application, you can give us a call or email us again at that contact information provided in the chat. We have staff who can literally take your application over the phone. If sitting down to type is just too overwhelming for you and you're eligible, we're able to do that. Although I'll say, as the deadline approaches, we're likely going to be, I would recommend that you go ahead and reach out as soon as you can if that's something that makes sense for you. And same goes for translation and accessibility services. So applications do need to be submitted in English. And so for Spanish speakers who are needing just some translation assistance, we do have an independent firm called Erickson Translations retained to provide interpretation and translation services for you so that your application can be submitted in English. If drafting it up in Spanish is easier for you, their contact information is in our guidelines. And again, if you want to pursue that option, I would highly recommend reaching out to them as soon as possible so that you can get that scheduled way ahead of the deadline.
Catherine,
Yes.
Catherine, I am so very sorry to interrupt, but because there are still several speakers, we do have some questions in the chat.
Great. I'm done.
Perfect.
We're done.
And
that's it.
Thank you so much. I know that this is such a critical resource for the field, and we absolutely appreciate you unpacking the application as well as the eligibility requirements. So I'll flag some questions that came through in the Q&A.
Okay.
And again, thank you so much for being here today. This is such a resource and so critical. So thank you so much. And I will now pass it on to Keith McNutt with the Entertainment Community Fund. And next slide, please.
Angie.
Hi, Keith. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Of course. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting us. And we certainly share all of the feelings, emotion, and support that we've been hearing throughout the call. My job is to kind of go through some of the services that are available to the community, parts of the community that we serve. The Entertainment Community Fund serves everybody who works in performing arts and entertainment, and it's any job within those disciplines across radio, TV, film, music, opera, dance, theater, comedy, and circus. So anybody who's involved in any level. And you can go to the next slide. We've been doing disaster work for many decades, actually, and so have been able to ramp up pretty quickly. We've already provided close to $800,000 in emergency financial assistance. And we're seeing the population that we serve breaking down into 3 groups that are directly fire related, plus a 4th. So we're helping people who have lost everything, lost their homes and everything. And that's of the 780,000 that we've distributed already, that's about 400,000 worth of the immediate assistance we've provided. We're also helping people who had home damage and have been displaced for extended periods of time beyond just a few days. And we're helping people who have lost work because of the fires. And I think probably everybody on this call who has any colleagues, friends, family in the TV and film industry knows that there's also a pretty substantial group that continue to be struggling economically because of the combination of everything over the last 5 years, the pandemic, the strikes, the TV and film recession that we've been experiencing, and now this. So our assistance really follows what we typically do, but also how our calls have been coming in these last couple of weeks. We're hearing we need immediate financial help. We need help understanding resources and navigating all of these very complicated systems, and we're really struggling emotionally. So those 3 things are what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. We have our own disaster emergency financial assistance. It goes through Chase Concourse directly to people's bank accounts. The applications are on our website. You register in the portal, there's a link on the homepage of our website, which is entertainmentcommunity.org, and we'll have a QR code in the last slide. So you can apply. We turn them around in a couple of days, and Everything's pretty self-explanatory, but if there's anything you get stuck on, you can call one of the social workers or ask for a consultation with a social worker through the portal, and they will walk you through it. And our grants are, the maximum is usually about $3,000 at this point. And depending on fundraising, we will possibly be offering other grants as well down the road. One thing that we're very certain of, and I think everybody's aware of it in this particular situation, is that when a crisis like this is in the press, all of the organizations that are talking to you today, the nonprofits, get a flood of donations. And when the topic moves on in the news, sometimes the donations do as well, but the need continues. And we always see typically at least a 6-month tail to a situation like this, where we continue to provide grants at very elevated levels for the whole period of recovery. And my guess is this is going to take at least a year. So for anyone who knows people who are in a position to, a lot of love is coming out, right? A lot of people want to donate furniture. I've got an extra couch, I've got a bed, I've got this, I've got that. But people right now don't have a place to put that stuff. So I would just encourage all of those generous friends and colleagues that you know to hang on to that generosity, because over the next 6 months, over the next year, as those families are finding permanent places to settle back in, they're going to need your help then as well. In terms of resources, we have an evergreen resource page on our website, which you see here. Our staff are literally updating that every day as we hear about new things. So we're trying to be as comprehensive as we can so people can go in and see that. And then, of course, we're sending resource updates out to everyone who's received grants from us. I think you can go to the next slide. One of the other things we're doing around resources is we've pulled together a coalition of all the major entertainment unions, guilds, and associations and nonprofits that provide emergency relief into one 15 organization coalition for this purpose. And we're putting together a series of webinars hosted by either us or the Motion Picture Television Fund to take people through some of the nitty-gritty of different systems. So we just completed 2 seminars with representatives from FEMA and the Small Business Administration. We'll be doing another one on legal resources, and we'll be doing a couple more probably on disaster unemployment and some of the emotional strategies for coping. We also have, on the emotional side of things, we started a weekly drop-in group for anybody who needs to just feel a little fellowship, share their experiences, share resources, and just not feel alone through this with other people who are going through exactly the same thing. That's also accessible through our website portal. That's called Recovering Together. We have a number of other of our ongoing mental health workshops that are available, from a daily mindfulness meditation, just taking 15 minutes, a half an hour with other people in the community to kind of set the tone for the day. We have a workshop called the Anxiety Toolbox, which helps people manage those symptoms that so many of us are feeling right now, and mindfulness stress reduction. Our Career Center is also helping people in that 4th group and others who are thinking about work-related transitions, changes in terms of how you can use your skills in a transferable way in other industries. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much. We so appreciate what everyone is doing at the Entertainment Community Fund. We will also share last week's FEMA webinar once that's available. It was excellent. So thank you for all that you are doing and for being here today with us.
Sure.
Okay, next slide, please. Gloria Oster is here with us from California Lawyers for the Arts. Thank you for being here, Gloria.
Thanks for having me, Angie. I'm California Lawyers for the Arts director in Southern California, and I'm just so grateful to have an opportunity to be here and to connect with all of you. This is such a difficult moment, and it's incredibly reassuring to hear about the enormous number of resources and outreach available within the arts and creative sector. You can move to the next slide, please. Oh, let's move to the next slide. I think they're out of order. There we go. So California Lawyers for the Arts, for those of you who don't know, is a statewide nonprofit that provides a range of services designed to meet the legal needs of artists and arts organizations throughout California. We've served as a resource for the arts and entertainment communities for the past 50 years, ensuring that creators have access to essential legal support, dispute resolution services, education, and advocacy. Through this combination of services and programs, we help foster sustainable creative careers under normal circumstances. And in moments of crisis, we're able to pivot to provide specific resources to address particular needs. At the heart of our work is our lawyer referral service, through which we connect individuals and organizations with qualified attorneys who can provide legal advice and representation. Ordinarily, we help artists navigate a whole host of legal issues. In this moment, we are specifically offering pro bono emergency legal clinics and providing direct consultations with our affiliated attorneys who can answer questions about disaster relief and recovery claims, from insurance to FEMA to SBA questions and well beyond. We held our first emergency clinic 10 days after the fires broke out, and will continue to host additional clinics in the coming weeks and months. The next free clinic is scheduled to take place on February 12th. And of course, in addition to the clinics, we offer ongoing assistance through the referral program and can connect wildfire victims with our panel of attorneys for short consultations or longer representations if needed. In addition to direct legal advice, we also offer dispute resolution services, including mediation and facilitation. Although our program was originally conceived to address the need for inexpensive and efficient means of resolving arts-related disputes, it has really evolved, and we offer community mediation and handle things like landlord-tenant disputes, neighbor-neighbor conflicts, debtor-creditor issues, cross-cultural conflicts, and organizational disputes. During this time of rebuilding and recovery, it's certainly possible that differences of opinion may arise about how to move forward. And through our mediation program, we're able to offer a constructive means of bringing parties to a conflict together to come up with creative solutions with the assistance of trained neutrals who can guide the process and ensure that everyone is equitably heard. We can help support organizations in a very similar way with meeting facilitation services. So whether you're engaging in short or long-term planning sessions, you can benefit from the assistance of working with an experienced facilitator neutral, whose role is really to guide the conversations while maintaining the group's focus, ensuring all voices are heard, and managing time effectively to achieve actionable, clear outcomes. Education is also a cornerstone of our mission. We offer a year-round calendar of programming on legal literacy for artists. But in this moment, we're pivoting to specifically address legal and business issues related to disaster recovery and future preparedness. We're currently organizing an in-person event to be held here in LA within the next month on how to recover from losses of artworks after a fire. And for future prevention, how to professionalize maintaining documents and records in cases of digital breakdowns or other catastrophes. In these incredibly challenging times, please also know that CLA is involved in advocating for artists' rights at the local, state, and national level. We work to protect and advance the interests of California's arts and creative sectors, whether supporting copyright reform, promoting fair compensation, or defending cultural institutions. We're here for you as an advocate, and we're eager to hear from you. Could we go back to the previous slide? There we go. Lastly, collaboration in many ways is the lifeblood of artistic work, and it's our goal to share resources, whether compiled directly by our own team for any of the organizations represented here and beyond. We will share resources that you all are making available to the community through our email list and on our social media, and of course, as part of our own wildfire resource list, which is a living document that's being updated as new programs and services are developed and are brought to our attention. So please reach out to us and share your programs and resources, and we will in turn share them with our constituency, which is of course also your constituency. As others here have noted, this is very much a marathon. We're here to help, and we are here for the long haul. Our homepage has the links to our wildfire resource list and to registration for all of our upcoming programs and events. So please visit calawyersforthearts.org for more information. Feel free to contact me directly or any member of our team with questions about any of our programs and available resources.
Gloria, thank you so much for this presentation. We deeply appreciate all of the services that CLA provides throughout the region, also in Northern California as well.
Thanks, Angie.
And thank you. And our next speaker is Cameron Baxter Lewis, the Director of Grants, Programs, and Training with Craft Emergency Relief Fund. Cameron, are you ready to go? And you have
I'm ready to go.
5 minutes. Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me here today, and echoing other folks, although I know you might be tired of hearing it, but I am incredibly sorry this has happened, and I'm hoping things get easier in the near future. So I'm Cameron Baxter Lewis, Director of Grants, Programs, and Training with the Craft Emergency Relief Fund. Next slide, please. We have been around for 40 years. This year is our 40th year anniversary, and we were created by craft artists and for craft artists. In light of time, I will save our origin story for today, but I will note our first question we get is, well, how do you define craft art? And I think that's a great question. So we very cautiously say we do not define craft art for the field, but for the purposes and eligibility of our programs, there are 6 mediums that tend to represent around 90% of all of the artists that we work with. And those mediums are glass, ceramic, metal, wood, fiber, and jewelry. There are folks who use other 3D materials as well who could potentially be eligible, but it's really those 6 mediums that we see most often. Next slide, please. Today, we're going to focus on our grant programs. These are what we're best known for. And the first program is an emergency relief grant. These are $3,000 grants for craft artists who have had a practice-threatening emergency. We're seeing a huge volume of applications from the LA wildfires, upwards of 200 applications in the last couple of weeks for a program or an organization of our size. That is a significant scale. And this year, since Hurricane Helene is still in the throes of recovery as well, we've awarded about 800% more grants than we do in any typical year. And in fact, when I look in that left-hand corner where it says we've awarded $3 million in the last 5 years, we've actually awarded almost $3 million since October. So we've done about 5 years worth of grants. That program is incredibly busy. I will talk in just a moment about some of the qualifications for those grants. But I do want to also mention that we have a Get Ready grant. These are $1,000 grants for craft artists to do any sort of activity to safeguard their practice or their studio. So as you look to rebuild or restart your studio or your practice, consider applying for that grant. We will open that grant this spring, and we typically do another cycle in the fall. The emergency relief grant is open year-round. There is no deadline to apply, so I do want to note that as well. And real briefly, we also give donations when we are able to artists who've received emergency relief grants. And these are businesses that provide gift cards or occasionally a kiln if a kiln has been lost as part of an emergency. Scott Kiln will provide a kiln to folks. So a nice extra boost to folks who've received an emergency relief grant. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, there are a few eligibility requirements in order to apply for either the Get Ready or the Emergency Relief Grant. First of which is you have to be an individual craft artist. Secondly, as TCI was mentioning earlier, we do look that you have a public-facing artistic practice. Most folks have a website that's associated with their practice. Some folks maybe go to craft fairs or have other public events that they attend. Working for any of that documentation would be fine. Third is that you've had a recent substantially disruptive emergency or disaster. This year, obviously, is climate-related disasters is the big piece of that. But we also support other types of emergencies, whether that's illnesses or accidents, really anything that has set an artist back in being able to engage in their practice. Fourth is that you must reside and work in the U.S. or U.S. territories for the last 2 years. And fifth, we look that you're a minimum age of 18 years or older. Next slide, please. In addition to those two grant programs, I do want to mention we have a host of free resources on our website. These are resources that you can use as you're looking to set up a studio. We have a studio safety checklist. I know now is not the time you really want to hear about this, but something to keep in mind for the future. We also have a legacy planning guide for artists to think about their assets and estates. So I'll walk cautiously on this slide, but just want to let you know that these resources are out there. They are free. They are downloadable. And next slide, please. Oh, last, I wanted to say you can always reach us at programs@craftemergency.org. If you have any questions, we have been having some glitches with our applications, which we're working steadily to resolve. But if you run into any issues, please email programs@craftemergency.org. And we just ask that you save a copy of your current application, and I can go in and submit on your behalf. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cameron. We appreciate it. And I did put the email address in the chat. And now we are thrilled to invite Saga Darnell, the head of research and public affairs from Inevitable Foundation, who is here with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. As Angie said, my name is Saga Darnell. I'm here representing Inevitable Foundation. We're an entertainment nonprofit created to support writers and filmmakers with a broad range of disabilities and mental health conditions. Perfect, thank you. We started our rapid response funding work in 2023 when the communities that we serve were impacted by the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. And this year have expanded our emergency relief to include those impacted by the LA wildfires in this community. So we currently have grants available for writers, filmmakers, and producers with disabilities or mental health conditions who were impacted by the LA fires. And that impact can range anywhere from home and property loss to needing masks or air purifiers. As this slide notes, we also define disability very broadly. So if you have any concern or you're not sure if your disability qualifies you, you're welcome to ask here or email us. But in short, it probably does. It's a very big umbrella. We keep it that way on purpose. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. If this sounds like someone you know or yourself, please visit inevitable.foundation/ERF, this big URL on the screen here, to apply or encourage folks that you know to do the same. The application is entirely online. It'll only take you about 10 minutes. Like many folks presenting today, we're granting as quickly as possible to keep up with demand. So you can expect to hear from us in 1 to 2 weeks, if not sooner. Our grants start at $500 and are determined by the need of the applicant and the funding we have available. So if you get a first grant from us, you're welcome to apply again if you still need more help. We've distributed more than 25 grants in the last 3 weeks. And as I said, we're dispersing grants as quickly as we can based on the funds we have available. So also if you or someone you know is in a position to support creatives in this community, we're accepting donations at the same link. We're just trying to turn money around as fast as possible and get it out the door. So if you, my last note, if you're looking for support resources, but you aren't eligible for this relief fund, we also have a huge collection of resources available on our website at inevitableinsider.com, that smaller URL. And these resources include everything from air quality to childcare to food sourcing to mutual aid, and they're geared very broadly at disabled Angelinos and those in the entertainment industry. So if you're in the entertainment industry but not disabled, or vice versa, these are resources that might be helpful to you. Thank you so much. I think that's all I have to say. If there are any questions, happy to take them. And thank you to Angie and all of you for having us today.
Thank you, Saga. So appreciate you being here. We will circle back with any questions that have come through. And now I would like to welcome Gustavo Herrera, the Executive Director of Arts for LA. Thank you for being here, Gustavo.
Absolutely. Thank you, Angie, and thank you, Kristen, and the LA County team for pulling us together. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gustavo Herrera, CEO of Arts for LA. To those of you who might not know Arts for LA, although I see a lot of familiar faces in the attendees, Arts for LA is your regional arts and culture advocacy organization for the Los Angeles region. We're a network of about 75,000 arts advocates representing over 200 organizations here in the Los Angeles region. I know many of you in the room are members of Arts for LA, and so thank you. This is a devastating and traumatic moment for Los Angeles. And I know for many of us, friends, work colleagues, family members have lost their homes in Los Angeles or have been deeply impacted. I also just want to remind us here in Los Angeles, where 1 in 6 of us are creative workers in LA's creative economy. So many of our artists, of our creative workers, and our institutions and organizations have been impacted. And so really in an effort to be of immediate support, Arts for LA has partnered with the California Community Foundation in creating a mutual aid resource document. This resource is very specific. It enables arts and culture organizations to submit their resources through a form, resources that are specific to artists, creative workers. And so, and Arts for LA is on the back end managing that form. I know many of you who represent organizations are trying to be of support and of services to individuals and people who have been impacted. And so if you would like to share some of your resources, I will be dropping in the link, or I hope the county can drop in a link of the resource. And there are numerous partners who are collaborating with us and supporting the distribution of this mutual aid resource. Some of those partners include the SNAP Foundation, Theater Producers of Southern California, LA County Department of Arts and Culture, Fulcrum Arts, California for the Arts, California Arts Advocates, Dance Resource Center, and California Lawyers for the Arts are all sharing this resource for artists and creative workers broadly. And so please, if you can also help us with the distribution of this mutual aid resource for artists and creative workers, I will also drop the toolkit for you below. In addition to this mutual aid resource, the very next day after the fire started, really within 24 hours, Arts for LA started capturing stories from artists, creative workers, and institutions and organizations that have been impacted. We did so with the understanding that there would be a need to amplify some of these stories to our elected offices. And hearing those stories in real time is really important. I do want to just make one clarification point here that the tool that Kristen and NCAPER Kristen and the LA County Department of Arts and Culture and NCAPER are sharing and will share shortly, Arts for LA is amplifying that, and I know many of us partners are all amplifying that resource. the earlier tool that we had out there that was collecting stories is really more with the intention to ensure that we had and continue to have stories of impact from the community that we can share in real time with elected offices. And so this is a few of the efforts, couple of the efforts that Arts for LA have been working on, and again, encourage all of the representatives from arts and culture organizations who have resources to share with artists and creative workers to connect with us. And I'll drop my email below too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gustavo, and to all of our presenters. I think we easily could have had an hour with each of these agencies and all of the work that they're doing, both on the ground and throughout LA County. I will now pass it on to Kristen Sakota, as well as a few other members of the Arts and Culture team to share resources. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, Angie, for your deft facilitation, and thank you to all of our speakers and partners today. There are a few more things we want to share. I'm going to move through these pretty quickly so that we can get to our Director of Research and Evaluation before we close out. I just wanted to highlight again that many of the resources you've heard today are accessible on their own websites when you're applying or need eligibility questions, but for an aggregation of many of the resources, you can go to LA County Department of Arts and Culture, lacountyarts.org, and our website resource page is there. It will be noted in this PowerPoint that gets saved and made publicly available after today's event. Next slide. I also want to highlight you can find creative well-being through our Arts Education Youth Development Division. This is really arts supporting mental health, healing informed arts education and arts practice for young people. There's a curriculum guide there, but also there are online recorded sessions and online live sessions. If you are a teaching artist or an educator who wants to learn more about self-care through the arts or convene for your own self-care, those are available. Next slide. I want to also highlight that our civic art team is partnering with other conservators and others across LA County, as I mentioned earlier in this webinar, to support artists and others who have artworks that are damaged. And so you can find a recording of one of those live stream events from your neighborhood museum there. And we are looking at possibly holding a series of in-person events on this same topic for artists and community members and others. Next slide. And with that, I want to turn us to invite our Director of Research and Evaluation, because we are also, as Gustavo rightly said, trying to understand and deepen our knowledge of the impact of what has taken place and what will take place to be able to support, inform, and advocate for resources for arts and culture and for artists, creative workers, and organizations. Bronwyn, turning it to you to share.
Great, thank you. So we are trying to gather information so that we've got a good picture of what has the impact of the wind and wildfires been on our arts and culture community. So the biggest thing we're doing right now is we are administering a survey. There are 3 different surveys. If you are an individual artist, performing group, or creative worker, there's one survey for you. If you are an arts organization, there's a survey for you. And if you are a cultural institution, there's a different survey for you. We are gathering this information. We are posting it on our website and trying to update the findings on a weekly basis is our goal. We've got some preliminary findings up right now, but what I want to encourage you to do, if you have the bandwidth and you haven't already, is to please take the survey that makes the most sense for you. This information that we're making publicly available is for policymakers, for advocates, for arts organizations, for you as artists, to help make the case for the funding that we need to respond to the crisis. If you have any questions, I am happy to answer them. The links are up on in the chat, and I thank you very much.
Thank you for that call to action. And again, I want to just really offer deep thanks to everybody, all the presenters. I know it was a lot of information. Again, we will be posting and saving this recording and this PowerPoint. I want to thank my team for their fabulous job as well. And please feel free to reach out if there's anything else we missed. And Angie, any last words before we close it out?
We
Nope.
have opened up the chat in case folks have any final comments, and we will be circling back. Thank you all for your questions and your time today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Be well.